So we've moved on to overcoming challenges at a community level. We have, hopefully this is building upon your ethical leadership module. And today I wanted to talk about how we might define conflict, just like we define leadership, perhaps differently than others. I want to talk about the definition of conflict as well, and how when we own a more broad definition of conflict, how it supports us when we run into challenges. I want to review 4 strategies for overcoming challenges. You probably have all noticed I'm very passionate about conflict transformation. There's so much in the way of conflict and Worst Enemy, Best Teacher that I would love to explore with you, but trying not to overwhelm you with too much information and give you some of my top tips that when you're running into stressful situations that you can center into those and move ahead. You all, as you read in, hello Bernard, as you all read in the introductory materials and listened in the videos, you will be moderating a dialogue as your applied learning assignment for this module. So you need to gather some people together, 6 or more, maybe 6 to 10 people, and hold a conversation using dialogue so that you get to practice these skills that we have been exploring together. So I'll talk about that a little bit more today, and want to make sure you get time in small groups so that you can brainstorm together and just continue to explore this information. We'll debrief, and I'm sure we will be done before I know it. So to start, in the chat, because we always got to do a warm-up, what do you think of when I say the word conflict? What words come up for you? Bring up the chat so I can see. There we go. Disagreement, problem, fight. These are great. Argument, challenge, finding solutions. That is a game. I love that. Different opinions. You guys are misunderstanding. Difference, nice. Anger, nice. Disagreement, lots of different agreement. Panic, thank you. I agree. Yeah. Fear, exactly. Negative energy. Creative tension, I found out recently. Oh, that's really great. Opposites. It takes us to our growing edge. Different opinions. War, sadness. These are fantastic. Quarrel. Yeah. So these are, oh my gosh, yin yang, vulnerability. It makes us moody. It does, doesn't it? These are fantastic. Thank you all. So as you noticed, conflict is, as we say, it is messy, risky, and scary. It is people fighting, violence or war. Some of you have directly experienced what conflict can look like at a countrywide level. As I said, messy, risky, and scary. And disruption. Look how you all went to disruption and disagreement. But one of the other things is we don't grow without conflict. It is necessary. We could go as far as saying conflict is the best thing we've got going for us in some ways, because without it, we don't grow. Can you think of a time in your lives where you have not experienced some kind of conflict, either internal? Should I keep this job? Should I get a new job? Should I apply for the CSP? Should I not apply? So an internal conflict has come up. A interpersonal conflict has come up. A conflict with a system, be it a university, a community, a family, or conflict with life. So the 4 types of conflict. Can you think of a time in your life where there was no conflict of any kind and you grew. I can't. I always, when I look and I think, when I got better, there had to be some type of conflict, some kind of disagreement, some kind of disruption to bring me into growth. So it's necessary. When we are in stability or homeostasis, we don't change because it works. Something has to shift us to make us improve, to take us to our growing edge, to create that necessary creative tension. So as well, it is our source of opportunity. It's awful. I'm not saying it isn't awful. It's disruptive and risky and scary and messy and can be very dangerous, but it is absolutely critical for us to improve. And there's always opportunity hidden in it, because when change comes, there's some opportunity that we may not see. Meanwhile, and you've seen this graphic in Worst Enemy, Best Teacher, but I want to remind you that when any kind of disagreement comes, like you were saying, we go to fear, and our brain on conflict is often not pretty. We are wired when something comes that we don't know what it is, and that usually comes with change, is in the center of our brains, in our limbic system, is a small organ or a part of our brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala is watching to see if something's scary or it's that we need to run. If it gets a little bit scared, it sends us to our reptilian brain, and we only think in the present. We only think about ourselves. We go into fight flight to get us the heck out of there, either to fight against the foe or to run away from it or freeze. Meanwhile, and this is what this whole module is about, is how to trick ourselves into our neocortex so that we think, and this is a more highly developed part of our brain, we think in past, present, future. We can create a problem solve. We can think about others, and we come up with good solutions, lasting solutions to the big problems and the small problems of our times. Our prefrontal lobes are also a later developed system. And again, the tricks that I'm giving you in this module help us to be in our neocortex and our prefrontal lobes. One of the core components, and you read about this in The Way of Conflict, we come back to it in Worst Enemy, Best Teacher. When I did a TEDx talk on, it's like you get to say one thing. You saw I actually got to do two, but one of them, I said, I get to say one thing, and it is, when conflict comes, be grateful. And you think, why does that matter? Why in the world would I be grateful for it? One is that you've noticed for thousands and thousands of years, if we're grateful, we've learned as human beings, it puts us in our neocortex. You can only practice gratitude from your neocortex and your prefrontal lobes. So it puts you in a better state. So one of the first tips is watch your mindset when you are in conflict. We are naturally going to go to, this is awful. I don't like that person. I don't like the situation. I want to get the heck out of there. Reptilian brain. But if I can think that my opponents make my final solution stronger, and I might want to ask, tell me more. And I see that in this challenge, there's opportunity, if nothing else, to learn something new. If I come at a conflict with an opening bow on the mat of a martial artist, and I say, thank you for this opportunity to learn. You could hurt or destroy me. I recognize that. I'm ready. Let's do this. Taking me to my growing edge. You will perform much better. Again, over thousands of years, we've been taught that if we see conflict as a game that we're playing, we do that better in our neocortex. All we're doing here, and you can tell I'm pushing and nudging you to see, is we're leveraging brain science to get us out of fear into our neocortex. You see this painting behind me. My mentor was an amazing woman named Angeles Arian, and she would say two things. I want to remember her today. I should say many things, but two things around conflict is a call to creativity. Conflict is a call to creativity. And again, what she was doing was reminding us creativity is done in our neocortex. So if I think this is the time to be creative, this is a time to engage in this like a game, see if I can figure it out, I move to my neocortex. The other would say her favorite animal, and she would tell a story often of the raven, which is in that painting behind me. And the raven, there's a story within one of the Native American traditions in the United States, is that when you are afraid, take your fears and give them to a raven, and they'll put them on their back, because a raven's feathers are iridescent. They look like they have a rainbow in them. And you would ask the raven to take your fears up to heaven and be burned by the sun, burned away by the sun. So when we are in a place of fear, we're never as effective. But meanwhile, we have to manage our fear because our bodies, our brains are set to go to fear. So we have to figure out ways to trick ourselves into our neocortex. So I give you those two. There we go. So number one is to watch your mindset. When conflict comes, to be grateful. When challenges come into your life, like a virtual pivot of your CSP program, how can we be grateful? And many of you modeled that very quickly. We looked for places where we could be grateful so that we better responded. Number two is I use to make when conflict comes a game and keep myself in a place of interest and creativity and curiosity. I'm watching our elemental problem solving styles. And I'm hoping that you all were able to take the assessment in the way of conflict before today. And as you read these and heard in the videos as well, is there's four main default problem solving styles. Around the world, they're actually connected to the elements. We find this for thousands of years as well, which I love, but it's very much played out by modern learning theories. When you're doing teaching pedagogy, they talk about the four different learning, multiple intelligences. But so some of us, when conflict comes at us, we slow way down. We trust what we see and hear, smell, feel. We go into a place of trusting our senses. And this around the world is connected with the element of earth. Some of us trust our guts and listen to relationships. When conflict comes, we really hate it because it feels physically painful. We want to run away. Around the world, this is connected with the gentle element of water. But as we know, water can be quite a force, quite a furious force when pushed. For some of us, when conflict comes, we get excited. We see it as a place to get energized. We bring in dreams and visions, but we can also get easily overwhelmed. This is connected with the element of fire, the fire within us. And last, many of us, when conflict comes, the first thing we do is we go to our brains and try to figure it out. We try to problem solve. We try to go to solution. We trust our minds most, and that's connected with the element of air. You all have, as you know, watching the videos, all four of these within you. And leadership calls us to use all four. So one of the practice points I hope you will use over this fellowship and with your host organization is to notice in yourself, again, making challenge as a game, is how am I using all four of these? this situation has come up. Which style would be most helpful for me? Remembering that they're all 4 different radio stations, that you can be talking to someone and you don't seem to be understanding them. How do I tune myself to the different radio stations? And there's more information about that in the way of conflict. But we want to, again, I'm just reviewing these for you, is how do I use this as a way of personal development, bringing all of these 4 styles and being comfortable with all 4 styles. Great leaders, I notice, have the ability to connect into their hearts, as you know, as well as their heads, their guts, paying attention to what's around them, and to use all of those and appreciate all of that on their team. So another way to look at this is these elements also complement each other. So if you are finding that you're getting into a place, conflict comes and you're like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm very earthy. I don't want to, I want it to go away. There's not a problem. I go into denial. The element of fire, the fire problem solving style, things that fire likes, will help you to move more into the center. So bringing in movement and creativity, making yourself journal for a little bit, coming up with a dream will move you out of that fixed place. If you're overwhelmed in fire, and you're overwhelmed, spending time out in nature and just being will calm you. As well with air, if I am up at 3 a.m. and I can't sleep and I'm just thinking, that's a great thing to ask, how are you? And watch to get connecting into my emotions. It'll calm me, bring me more into the center, and I'm more effective. If I'm overwhelmed by emotions, I can use air by using it to bring myself give voice to the depth of my emotion. Again, what we're trying to do is get ourselves out of fear into our neocortex. Earth likes things slow, air likes things really fast. Water really doesn't like conflict. Fire is much more comfortable with it. So you can see how you can find where there may be conflict among your styles, and how do I, if I'm in earth, speed up a bit to help people who are on the air radio station catch up with me. And if I'm with water and I'm like a rabbit, I want everything to go away. How do I show up a bit more to calm down the peacock of fire? The fire style will get very big, and we act like the peacock with the feathers all around us going, see me, I want to talk to you. So if you find that you're in a rabbit space, is how to show up a bit more and say, remembering that fire likes acknowledgement. I see this and this and this and this, and it'll calm the peacock down. I wanted to show you this chart because it's also very interesting. Is in our lives, we may be on one quadrant of this at one point, and later in our lives, other quadrants will come to call us to be more balanced. So if you find that as you took the assessment, you noticed that you were more like air and fire, you're focused on doing and getting things done. As you go through life, the calling to be more in a place of being may occur. And watching that with those who work for you or work with you. If someone is a doing person, some time in just being and enjoying, which come with the earth and water styles, may really support them. Earth and air do a great job of paying attention to the world around us. They focus on the practical and what is the world of tables and chairs and paintings and windows. Where the water and fire styles are connecting into the more intuitive. And so you can see how they balance each other and support. But you may find that in the first part of your life, you've been very practical and thinking about what's going on in the world, and that which is more intuitive, our dreams and our visions and an idea that just won't go away might start to emerge. So again, this is another practice in being balanced, and we're always trying to get to that center where we can use each style when it's most needed. So that's the next one. As I've said, if you see me and my style in my radio station, you're going to calm me down as well. And it helps us to gather more information from radio stations we may not be paying attention to. So if I'm really, my feelings have been very hurt in the situation and I'm in that water space, it can be helpful for someone to let me know, well, here's what's been going on around you. And be able to take all of that information within me. Another thing is to watch those 4 elements of the conflict, 4 phases of conflict, or the 4 phases of change. This is, again, comes out of science. When we study systems or living, breathing systems, water is an example of that, actually, is when a system is in stability, so be calm. You think about the water just being at peace. When a change comes in, some kind of disruption, it's to create some kind of conflict. So we put a drop in the water. That change will intensify and create chaos, as you read, in the way of conflict, as the system tries to adapt. When we watch with a group, and when there's a challenge, you can watch how at first it doesn't want to see the challenge, then it has to deal and cope with the challenge. Then eventually it finds a new place where it can adapt and evolve and come back to a place of stability. This is another trick while you are dealing with conflict, is watching where is the system. So it takes it out of, oh my gosh, I'm in conflict, to, oh, I'm going to step up. Like we talked about adaptive leadership, get on that balcony and pay attention to what's happening. Where is the system? You are a system. You are a living, breathing system. And systems are a complex grouping of things and that are made up of systems. So you are a system that is made up of a respiratory system and a digestive system. Inside your digestive system, there's other little systems. We go out. You are part of the CSP community family, and we are a system. We're a living, breathing being that lives all over this earth, which is just so cool. And so what I do connects into what you're all doing, and what you're doing connects into what I'm doing. And we're part of other systems, families and communities, and part of this planet and part of the solar system, and it goes on. So if we watch how the systems are moving, it can help us to know how to respond. But notice it also gets me into my neocortex, makes it more of a game. So this is the challenge that we want to continue to keep doing. Let's see here. And going, all right. One of the ways that we can watch with human systems how the ecosystem, how a system is adjusting, you can watch it in an ecosystem as well. If a predator moves through an ecosystem, you'll hear the birds singing and the squirrels or the rodents moving quickly. They go into a place of disruption. They're surprised. So you'll notice for yourself is, where am I right now in a particular conflict? So I might be, if I'm in disruption, I'll probably be put in anger or denial, or I'm acting surprised. And you can think about a conflict you may be dealing with right now in your own life and notice where, how am I handling this? Am I still mad at that person? Or am I feeling like there's no hope? I'm stuck. This is just the way things are going to be. I'm in chaos. But I was all of a sudden something shifted, starting to see possibilities, a light at the end of the tunnel. Am I getting excited? I'm in adaptation. Or am I starting to find that I'm trying something new and I'm nervous and I'm gathering courage to act? I've moved back into stability. So when you are either moderating dialogue or just in some kind of conflict, is paying attention to what are the emotions can be very helpful as well. So we want to watch our mindsets. We want to watch the styles. We watch where we are in the conflict. And then our work is to hold the whole system within us. And you've been again reading about this, but I wanted to remind us that if we can remember just these four, when we're in conflict, it's hard to remember things. So be grateful. What style is being used? Where are we? And how am I gathering all of the different perspectives? And this is a way to help center us. Instead of going, what should I do? What should I do? Okay, I'm going to go to gratitude. I'm going to pay attention to the styles. I'm going to pay attention to where I'm at. And then I'm going to try to gather as much information as I possibly can. It's not easy. When I'm afraid, I don't want any new information. So how can I keep saying, tell me more? I want to gather data from as many different possible perspectives. And I want to practice holding the opposites within me. It's not easy. I love this quote by F. Scott Fitzgerald. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. So we watch just around this issue around people getting vaccines or not getting vaccines. How can I hear both of those different perspectives and listen and look for a solution that allows us to break through so that we can come to greater health in our community? Not easy. I don't always want to listen to the opposing view. So how can we hold it? And you get to practice this and while you moderate dialogue. So the hope is either in person or virtually. Again, figure out what is appropriate and safe for you all in your community. I want you to bring some people together and choose a conversation, a question that you're going to have a conversation around. Bouncy mouth. And you're going to practice dialogue. So dialogue, as you read in Worst Enemy, Best Teacher, is a conversation that is focused on learning, not convincing or winning. It is not discussion, just sharing ideas. It's as a group moving forward. We want you to practice this tool, and some of you use this as part of your work. So you will continue, you understand the incredible gift of it, and we can always deepen our skills. I know I can always deepen my moderation skills. But what it is a practice of gathering and integrating information from multiple perspectives and allowing opposing perspectives to be held equally at the same time. So your work is to be the mandorla. Your work is to hold all of the different opposing circles and listen and see where there may be a breakthrough solution. The basic model is this, of course, again, in pre-pandemic times, I would suggest getting in a circle and being in a group of 6 to 12 Any larger, people start to get scared and they don't talk as much. If you are able to be in person, it does feel safe. You can use a talking piece where you have something that if I'm holding it, as you read and we're sending me best teacher, if I'm holding it means I speak and everyone else is to be quiet. There is no interrupting. You can do it on Zoom by using the raised hand function and you as the moderator calling on that person, but setting the ground rule that only one person speaks at a time. We wanted to keep it keep it in a learning focus. So if someone's moving into a place of you are wrong, we want to remind them of that ground rule of we're here to learn, not to win or convince. This is our opportunity to hear different perspectives. Keeping it succinct, that our answers are short, and that we make sure that there's space for everyone to contribute, and that we speak from our own window, from our own perspective. So these are your basic ground rules that you will want to provide. And again, I want you to just practice this. Yeah. I want you to craft a dialogue question. Think of an open-ended question, something that can't be answered with a yes or a no, and that it has a little controversy to it. So it might be, if you're doing within your organization, you could ask a question like, what is it that we're not talking about, but we should? So notice that has a little bit of, ooh, there could be a little conflict there. And just to maybe have people share what are the undiscussables in the organization. Or it could be, how could we be a more welcoming organization? We want to pick a conversation that calls us to our personal perspective versus I go into my head and I say, well, you know, all people believe this and the statistics say that. We are really working to bring in, from my perspective, I worry that we're not welcoming because we're always inviting people to bring their families. What if someone doesn't have a family and we're having a picnic? Might they not feel welcome? We're using a lot of pictures in our presentations and are visually impaired. If someone is visually impaired, they might not feel like we're including them and making it an accessible presentation. So, you know, how can I come from my own window? So think about how you craft your question. And then it is a question that people care about. So they want to show up and talk about that. It's going to support the future of the group. And I really do hope that you will do this with your home organization so that it can help, that it's something practical for you. Your job is to moderate this dialogue. And again, it doesn't have to be too long. It doesn't have to be too intense of a question, but something where you get to practice. Watch your body language, making sure you're not crossing your arms, that you're giving eye contact can be really helpful. And how can you, as the moderator, be neutral, that everyone thinks that you're their fan, that you're on their team? Because what you're doing is trying to hold the whole, everybody's perspective within you. Please call everybody to speak from their own personal. This actually opens people. So I speak from I instead of you or they. And modeling what it means to be the mandorla. So is to use, yes, I heard, Sharaban, that you believe this and this and this. And Aya is saying this and this and this. I'm noticing that you both agree that this and this and this. So that you're modeling how to look for that, for the mandorla, and look for that greater breakthrough solution. If you don't know anything else to say and you get nervous, I always use tell me more. I like to say that if you remember nothing else from me 10 years from now, just remember that tell me more. It's one of the best conflict resolution tools we've got. when someone's saying, you're a terrible person, Deidre, and I don't like you, and I don't want to talk to you anymore, I'm going to say, even though I want to run away, I may say, if I remember, tell me more about why I am such a terrible person. I want to know. And what I, in that, I learn, in that I become more of the mandorla, and that I create a culture of dialogue, and that we bring people in. I do recommend using ground rules, setting ground rules at the beginning for your conversation, that it's, you know, and making sure that people are comfortable with the ground rules, so that you can be the referee if needed. If someone is interrupting, you say, oh, remember, we're using the talking piece. Someone's trying to convince other people. Remember this, we agreed that this is going to be a place for learning, not for convincing or winning. So those are your tips. So this, my fair friends, is your are your assignments. We're going to create your PLP vision, moderate a dialogue in either your home organization or some other group at home, and then reflect on what you learned doing this dialogue. Add any insights or decisions that came from that experience of doing the dialogue. And do, again, we're all about, in this module especially, is not doing things just by ourselves, but gathering information from multiple perspectives. So ask someone in your pod to help you to refine, and you can bring the group together if you wish, or just make sure that you're checking in with someone. So lots to review here, and wanted to also, yeah, perfect. We're going to get you in small groups. When you write your vision, putting it in your PLP worksheet, put it in present tense. It's so much stronger. I envision a world where war is obsolete, not war will someday be obsolete. War is obsolete. Put your vision for the world and your own personal vision too. This is where your place to dream. So thank you for trusting us to do this visioning and dreaming. Dream big, dream big. As I mentioned in one of the videos, Miles Horton, who founded the Highlander Folk School, who trained Rosa Parks and was a dear friend of Martin Luther King Jr., said, if your vision can be accomplished in your lifetime, it is too small. So your vision is going to be the mandorla of what the world needs and what brings you alive. Let's take care of you and what would make you so happy, as well as what the world is calling for. So that is just a little reminder of what I'm looking forward to seeing as you submit your visions in your full PLP worksheet with your introduction and your code of conduct in there, so I can track how those are all aligned. So we're going to put you into breakout groups now. Eric's going to get you into groups of, say, I would say 5 or 6, Eric. That would just, 6 if that works. And if you feel comfortable, share your preferred style and what you've been noticing about the conflicts, the problem solving styles or conflict styles, and how it's best to connect with you. Bring these different perspectives and help one another to know, when I'm really in water, here's what really helps to bring me out. Or when I am trying to solve a problem and I am using air, here's what I really appreciate. What do you love that others do when you are using that style? So that's 1. So talk about styles. And 2, brainstorm together around what might be the question that you'd like to consider in the dialogue that you're going to do over the next week or 2. And then you can also share your insights in the discussion forum after this live session. So have fun talking with one another about your styles and what questions you're going to use in what question you're considering using for a dialogue. All right, sound good?
How many minutes are we thinking, Deidre, for this dialogue?
Say that again. Oh, how much time? That would be helpful. Speaking of things I have conflict with, time. Let us say, can we do 25 minutes? Let's do 25 minutes. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. All right. Any ahas, thoughts as a result of your small group conversation around both the elemental problem solving styles and as you're crafting your dialogue questions? I also know that some of you have some questions around this crazy assignment that I'm giving you.
In our group?
Yeah.
Can I talk or?
Yeah, Arliss, go ahead, Arliss, and then I'll call on Luis. Okay, Arliss. Yeah.
So in our group, there were different styles of conflict, but mostly of us were air conflict because in the air we are neutral and we bring dialogue, and through dialogue we let people in, and conflict is dimmed away. And what our group question was is that we talked about global warming, and some people, when we think about global warming, just imagine the ice melting, but it's not just that. But and the question was like to think more, or not a say or yes answer. What are you doing, and where do you see the global warming in your country? And here in Albania, I gave the example of the apocalyptic fires which are taking place also in Greece and also in Turkey. And this comes from the dry, and the temperatures just today, it was, for example, 43 degrees Celsius, which is unusual, and it hasn't been like this in 20 years in Albania. And then was a colleague from Turkmenistan that said that in my country the temperatures is 50 degrees Celsius, and like we came out with answers to this question. Thank you.
So you went right in, created a dialogue question for your group, and started to dive in. That could be a wonderful question to take out to your home communities as well. And I know, Arliss, you've been engaging in dialogue around that. Oh, thank you for that update. Luis, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, it was very interesting, like to have, at the beginning, like 25 minutes, it looks like, oh my gosh. But then when we start like warming and talking, then 25 minutes just passed like this, very fast. During that time, yes, it's interesting, like to see that there, for example, in our groups, there were fire and water, right? So that creates like a neutral environment at the end, and we have a pretty good conversation. So I'm learning a lot from colleagues from around the world, and basically, yes, we would. That, for example, one of the participants, Elisa, and myself, so we were like with as a lawyer, so we have like a point of view like to solve conflicts, but there are other ways like dialogue and so on, conflict resolution. So that is a pretty amazing, like to analyze. And at the end, for example, there were like things like to apply. In the case of Elisa, I like that, for example, all these of conflict resolution and so on, she wants like to apply to environmental change, for example. And in my case, like to apply the concepts that I learned in order to develop communities in rural areas in my country.
Wonderful. Awesome. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to hearing how these conversations go. It is just marvelous, yeah, to notice how we often might even pick our particular careers because of our styles too. So I love that you're bringing that forward. This is great. Nati.
Hey, hello there, everyone. Well, I like to share something that created a conflict for me, and it is related to the dialogue like exercise, because in my organization, for my home organization, the team, okay, we have some people, they are tech savvy, but they are like working and I don't know if some of them will be willing to, to reach out to me like in the night, because of course they have their family as well. And also there are some other members that they are senior adults. They are not as tech savvy as I would like to. So that's where I'm facing some kind of conflict. Well, it is a conflict in fact. So I don't know how I'm going to complete like the dialogue exercise. So in this sense, I was wondering if I don't know if you, Dr. Didi, or someone else have a suggestion or recommendation. Thank you.
Oh, I love it. So Nati is modeling, showing that what I've done is create a conflict, and kind of purposely. And it is a call to creativity, isn't it? On how am I going to answer this challenge of creating a dialogue? So I can see this, and this is especially challenging this year because we're calling people to do it virtually. So how might you, and again, you don't feel like you have to have everyone in your organization, or it even has to be your organization, but look at how you might creatively address this challenge that's been posed to you. You need to create a dialogue of at least 6 people around a topic that you want to learn more about and to move people forward. So Nati, some people have used friends from their church or from their mosque and brought people together that way to discuss a problem. Or, it might be an interesting thing to pose this as a challenge to your organization and find out from your organization how they might suggest overcoming this, because it's a bigger question for you all, is how do you all gather in these times? That may be the dialogue question. How do we effectively gather during COVID? But I'm loving that you're bringing this up. And I also encourage everyone, if you have ideas that might support Nati, notice how she is engaging in this idea of problem solving by gathering different perspectives. So thank you for modeling that, Nati. That's great. Aaron, I see your hand is raised. And then I'll.
Hello.
Hi everyone. Sorry.
Yes, please, Aaron, go ahead.
Okay. So first, I would like to thank the 25 minutes on time for the small session, because we were able to share our insight. So I would like to share the experience, my experience during the small group session. At first, I answered that my preferred style would be earth. And then as we move forward, like listening with the other members of the small group, like I feel that I'm water, and then I feel that I'm a fire style. So it's kind of like of a journey. And then I realized that this module, like this program, challenge us and call us to find that the harmony in these different styles, and just like be fair when it comes to problem solving and talking to people and engaging in dialogue. I remember when in February last year, and when I attended a feminist conference in Bangkok, and I'm the only male participant there. And during the first day, like some of the members are not comfortable with me, and I understand that, you know. But I also feel outcasted during that conference because of my gender. So like even before, when it comes to LGBT rights, when it comes to my identity, I think I'm fire. Like I'm gonna fight to that, to for them to hear me, to talk about my passion and the rights of LGBT people. But during that session, I was able to make them listen to me, and also just to hear me, just to hear my experiences. And at the end of the conference, they feel more comfortable talking to me and hearing my story. So yeah, thank you for this wonderful session.
Oh, Aaron, thank you. And thank you for sharing that. That's a wonderful example.
Can I
Oh, yes, yes, Kajali, I'll be right with you. I just wanted to reframe. So a moderation tool is to reframe what you've heard. And I wanted to just modeling that, the reframing that what I'm hearing from Aaron is he's noticing how we use all 4 of the different styles and how to be aware of that. And this power of dialogue that you experience in being in this group, you stuck with them and they stuck with you. And as a result, you as a community move forward. So thank you for sharing that with us. Kajali, I see you. I see you. Tell us.
I want to say something.
Yes, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. And we have been within a wonderful group. We were 5 and we have received a lot of questions. And the last question, which really embarrassed me, and I was about to give one example, and unfortunately, we were now at the end of the time. And just I will try to explain the things. Is about the last question of one of our peers. She asked that with their organization, for instance, political uses and religion are not forbidden within their organization. And she asked us how we think about it. I would like to give one example about it because I was president with one organization in my country. This organization has vision to encourage to promoting younger by studying the member of the organization. And within the same organization, political uses is forbidden. And last year, during our election, one of the members in the organization has been arrested because of political cause. And I was president. And what I could do now, can I do something for my friend because we're supposed to promote the member of the organization, and the political is forbidden of our organization. This was very, very difficult to me to take one decision.
Oh, I can imagine. Speaking of both ethical leadership and conflict resolution, that you were having to engage in this and thinking, balancing how to be able to support the health and safety of your colleague and of yourself as well. Thank you for sharing that. That is indeed a huge challenge. And I'm really glad that you were sharing that with us. And I'm hoping that you were able to find solution here. Thank you, Kajali. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Too. Yeah. Oh, Allah, your hand has been raised for a while. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much. And it's very lovely to see you again, see you and all the fellows. And actually, previously, I will not 25 valuable minutes. We have been talked about the preferred styles.
Oh, darn. Allah, you froze.
Any dilemma or any conflict, and actually or way that we can adopt for each conflict, because each conflict is unique and has its own characteristics, its own causes and own effects, and also sometimes you need to mix up two different methodologies.
Oh, darn.
Can act like a water. So we have been also talking about how we can solve any conflict during the workplace, during our professional life, and we have been agreed that on and focusing on the not focusing on the behavior, not rather than the personalities. and focusing on reaching a settlement rather than diving deeper into the details of unused details, unuseful details. So we have to listen to what other person is saying, and instead of getting ready to react. And we are in a dialogue that we need to solve the conflict rather than in a debate in order to have, let's say, question and answer. So this is briefly that I'd like to share. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry you cut out at different parts. So I was trying to grab what you were sharing. Yeah, but thank you so much. Oh, now I'm also aware that there's a whole bunch of questions, some big questions in the chat as well. And Terrence, I will come back to you, but let me make sure. Okay, ignore the date. Sharbon, if there's something, it might have been something that Eric and I missed. If it says there's an important date about November 9th, then we messed up. So thank you for pointing that out. The hope is that you will in the next few weeks, if you would, next week or two, is to conduct a dialogue and then do the reflection. Making sure that your vision statement is, so that November 5th is beginning of November is when you're going to submit your final PLP. So, yeah. So sorry about that. And that is, again, speaking of conflict, Eric and I have a little bit of conflict with Canvas, and we'll go right after it and fix that. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that so much. I want to make sure I go to, you had questions. Pema, if everybody understands multiple languages, feel free to have your dialogue in multiple languages. That's really up to you. I love that. I love that you can do that. Let's see. Ega, you brought up a great point about when you're moderating, you need to be neutral. So you want to make sure that as you practice dialogue, in this case, maybe pick something or pick a group where you can feel like you can be a neutral third party that has no interest in making the conversation go one way or another. You can, Ega, if you feel like if you feel like you can act neutral, it can be a wonderful opportunity for you to, because your job is to take all of these opposing opinions within you, maybe a practice for you to hear those opposing opinions that usually we might not want to hear. But great point noticing that. We want to make sure that everyone feels like we're a fan of theirs, that we are wanting everyone's opinions. I know this is going to be super challenging given that people are virtual. So I hope that you can find a creative way to do this. Someone was asking if they can do it with their family. Yes, if you want, but make sure you've got at least 6 people and that they're willing to play. They're willing to abide by the ground rules and that you can have a conversation. And so that you get the practice. Let's see. Okay, it's very hard. Yeah. The family. Yeah, so I've got that. Oh, that was, yeah. Maruna was asking about the family meeting. Yes, you can definitely do that. I was going to say, okay, and then Delroy, thank you for bringing that up, that you have that this unhealthy conflict resolution technique of bottling it up and trying to deal with it alone. I think we could all probably raise our hands that we might have used that style, right? So you're not alone in that, where we go, okay, I'm just going to hope it goes away. I'm going to try to ignore the conflict. I'm stay in disruption. I'm like in denial. And I can't because the conflict is there. So I thank you for bringing that up. And so how do we watch those styles of conflict? I know for me, when I'm trying to pretend it's not there, I'm in the disruption phase and I have to figure out what is the thing I'm going to have to do, the conversation I'm going to have, and it isn't fun. Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Sharbon, on the dates. We'll fix that. I'm going down here because again, we are at time here. I wanted to. Yes, you can be a combination. So here's the thing, you are not your style. You just have a preference of a style you like to use. You use all 4 styles, we all do. But what we want to notice is we have one that we like, 1 or 2 we like a little bit better than the others. And sometimes that style is not appropriate for the situation I'm in. Remember, we've talked about adaptive leadership, situational leadership. So here you are, someone comes into your office and they're really sad. Their grandmother is sick and they're falling apart. If your preferred style is air and you want to go in there and fix it, is that a good idea? Probably not such a good idea. I'm getting lots of shaking of heads, right? What style should we use when someone is in a very emotional place?
Water.
Exactly, water. Thank you. We want to just slow down, listen, hold that person in our hearts, use that calmer style. And we're going to talk about leadership styles as well. The leadership styles have all of this mixed within them. So yes, we can be a combination of styles that we like. And at the exact same time, what we're always trying to watch is which style would be appropriate at this moment and how can I get used to it and practice it. So great question. Let's see. I know I'm loving that we're all feeling with Delroy. I'm like, I'm with you. I have that too. What's the difference between dialogue and facilitation? So when we are in dialogue, so when you're facilitating a meeting, you're going, it has many of the same similar things where you're calling on people and you're using dialogue when you're facilitating, but often you're trying to move forward an agenda. With dialogue, the hope is that you're kind of sitting in a virtual circle or a real circle, you're contemplating a question and trying to move through the words to a better understanding of the situation. When we're up in front and facilitating and taking notes and moving things forward, there's more of an agenda to it. Dialogue is much more about the relationships and deeply considering a conversation. When we're moderating that dialogue, we're holding that space and keeping the conversation open enough that we can make progress. This is great. Okay. Our preferred style. Yeah. We're trying to bring everyone in. Thank you, Hina. You had it already in there earlier. We want to bring everyone in instead of leaving out that this is our work. Yeah, this is so great. Okay, I've got one more. Let's see. What if there are existing power structures among the participants? There you go. How can we establish equality in dialogue? Yes, this is the power of the ground rules. So one is getting everyone to play. So we're going to have a conversation. It's focused on learning and not convincing and debate. Your power structures come in these conversations. I mean, we always are working with power. This is one of the challenges of inclusive leadership, isn't it? But if we can have it that the person who talks is got the talking piece and everyone else is called to listen, that can help to equalize it some. That you as the moderator up front, if you've got some power dynamics, is to say, one of these ground rules is I make sure everyone gets equal time. So if it's your boss, for example, that always, dominates the conversation, is to say, while we're doing this, we're going to use the idea is that you get to learn as much as you can from other people's perspectives. So I'm going to keep your answer short and I may actually ask for the talking piece from you. And I hope that is okay. So what you can do is actually sort of, as the moderator, moderate some of the power imbalances. But great noticing, Maruna. It is definitely an ongoing issue. So I love that. But your ground rules are so important and key. Okay, I've run over. Is there anything else that's burning here? I'm going to be back online here at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll have another hour. We can answer questions, come up with ideas on how you might do your dialogues. Are we good? Yeah, you can tell I never have enough time. It's my constant challenge I'm trying to overcome.
Thank you so much, Deidre. Everything clear. You are a global mother. You are a global teacher.
Oh, Arliss, thank you. And it is such a joy to be part of every one of your teams. I'm just so happy that I get to work with all of you. Yeah, so anything comes up, come back and join us at 3 p.m. Email me, pronto me, direct message, Facebook me. Please friend me on Facebook. I love to keep an eye on all of you. So don't hesitate. I will be happy to be your friend. And it's also another easy way to get a hold of me.